Oh, cool. I just pulled Gunnerus. Let's look at his stats. Let's see. Really high health, pretty high damage with good DPS for the 500 range, pretty infrequent TBA, but massive damage against Black and Alien is really cool. Time to use that 20k DPS, baby! Okay, what's that Foreswing? Completely unplayable garbage. But seriously though, Foreswing and Backswing are a huge deal, and I'll collectively refer to them as frame data, and analyze frame data in depth this video. So when a unit starts to attack, there is some animation between when they start attacking and when the damage of the attack actually lands. Similarly, after they actually finish the attack, there's actually some animation left before they return to their idle animations, which is known as backswing. These two are seriously important. Important enough to completely change a unit's role in battle. So time to start actually analyzing it, starting with a long foreswing. While a long foreswing is generally considered to be a bad thing, that is not always the case. Starting with the drawbacks, since they're the most obvious. First off, if a unit is knocked back during their foreswing, they have to restart their animation. Next, when a unit starts attacking, they cannot move until the whole animation is finished. This means that if an enemy is knocked out of that unit's range during this animation, the attack can miss. Having a long foreswing gives a large amount of time for these two occurrences to happen. This is most prominent on Crazed Bahamut, but also applies to many other units like your standard nuker Ubers such as Windy, Thandia, Ku, Gundress, Shishilan, or other units that just have a generally long foreswing like Kai, Pre-Ultra Form Cosmo, and so on. These units have long foreswings and are generally notorious for missing their big attacks, which is an especially big deal considering that they generally also have very long TBA but high damage per hit, meaning that missing even one hit is a huge damage loss. But like I said, having a long foreswing is not strictly bad. You'll just have to play around to its strengths. You could view Crazed Bahamut's 4-second foreswing as 4 seconds for the enemy to be knocked out of his range, or 4 seconds for the enemy to reach and interrupt Crazed Bahamut. But you could alternatively also view it as having 4 whole seconds to bait as many enemies as you can into Bahamut's 450 range. This is the basis of the bait and punish playstyle, which can be used by most nukers. Nuking a huge stack of enemies can be incredibly satisfying, and even single-handedly win you the stage sometimes. While I make it sound like a huge deal, and while it's a reasonably big deal, that's actually the only strength of having a long foreswing that I am aware of. And even that is better replicated by LD and Omnistrike units. Long foreswing is still intended to be and almost always functionally a drawback. But the drawback, like any well-designed drawback, can be played around, which adds more depth to the game. Next up is the natural opposite to a long foreswing, which is a short or even instant foreswing. This is generally better to have, as it'll ensure better accuracy and reliability. Like I said earlier, if an enemy is knocked out of the unit's range or manages to knock back and interrupt the unit during the animation, the attack will not land. Therefore, a short foreswing means a smaller window for this to happen, which means less chance for this to happen. Though it should be noted that it is still possible. I mean, we've all seen slime misses, right? But on the whole, these units are very, sometimes almost perfectly accurate, which makes them very easy to precisely time, which is important when they're also front-loading tons of damage in cases like Bullet Train and Awakened Bahamut. Shorter foreswing generally also improves the accuracy of a unit's attacks, which just generally makes it easier to use. It also makes the damage even more front-loaded, means that after the unit lands the attack, they can die for all we care and have still made a pretty large contribution to battle, which is the point of units like Slime and Supercar. I'll talk more about Awakened Bahamut and Bullet Train in the Backswing section. So that's all I have about Foreswing, but after the unit actually lands the attack, there's still a chunk of animation left known as the Backswing. But the attack is already landed, how important could it possibly be? It turns out, really important. Like, I'd say it's more important than Foreswing. The most important part to note is that despite Backswing taking place after the damage lands, it is still considered attack animation, and is still considered attacking. Most relevantly, this means that units will not move during the backswing, and if the unit is knocked back during the backswing, they can skip the rest of the backswing. Generally speaking, backswing doesn't vary as much as foreswing, but there are some units with an especially short or especially long backswing, which will be the focus of this part of the video. For units with a relatively longer backswing, those few properties I mentioned earlier matter a lot, providing different benefits or drawbacks to different types of units. Most prominently, if a unit is knocked back during the backswing, they will restart their attack cycle. The unit won't have to sit through the rest of its backswing and immediately gets to start going through its idle time. This is most prominent in units that have fast force swing and also little to no idle time, which are commonly known as rebound units, as the strengths of a fast force swing and a long backswing synergize very well together. When a rebound unit attacks, it will front load its damage with its fast force swing, then probably be knocked back during its backswing due to high knockback count or enemy knockback ability, allowing them to bypass their backswing and immediately start their idle time. Their idle time is then often so short that by the time that they reach the front line again, they're already ready to attack again, so they do. Rebound is most prominent in rushers like, again, Awakened Bahamut, but also Yukimura, Blanca, Isumboshi, Bullet Train, etc. But while Rebound is the most flashy benefit of having a backswing-based TBA, it is not the only one. The other main benefit of having a backswing-based TBA mainly falls to the other property of backswing I mentioned earlier. While in backswing, units do not move forward. This may not be great for tanker units that you want to be at the front line to absorb all the hits, but it is great for ranged attackers or CC units that you do want to survive. Think about it. If they don't move forward, they're usually out of enemy range, and therefore safe from the enemy. If they're not moving, they also don't run the risk of speed clipping a lot of the time. And when they do move, they are already ready to attack again and defend themselves. This is a great property to have in general for a decent chunk of units, and while it's not flashy, it is very helpful for units that do have it, such as Seafarer, Housewife, and Pizza. That said, having a long backswing or animation in general does come with drawbacks. When is that? When you don't want the unit to be chilling in the backline. Most obviously are tanks. Look at most top tier tanks. Ai, Cradle, Keiji, Bowser, Ravi. They all have somewhat short backswings. Since the main purpose of tanks is to gain or at least prevent losing ground, being able to move forward shortly after their big attack knocks back all the enemies is really important. Conversely, look at Fat Machine. While Fat Machine's animation is primarily Foreswing, the point of animation still applies. That every time he encounters a small peon, he will spend forever trying to attack it. Because it's Foreswing, he will miss. But even if he hits it and it was backswing, he would have been chilling in the backline for quite a long time while all your units in the front line just get obliterated by the presumably very strong frontline forces. So I've been focusing on cat units the entire video, but this very much applies to enemies too. After all, enemies also have attack animations, which can also alter the counterplay against the enemy. Frontline pushers like Banban variants and late game Doge variants have very short backswing so that they can push harder. Brawler variants rebound just like our rebound unit. Nyanda variants also can one-shot huge chunks of your units if they push too far within that long animation, but at the same time can also be interrupted very easily during said long animation. These points are still generally the same throughout units and enemies, so I'm not going to repeat myself that much more, but do keep that in mind when looking at enemies too. Alright, that's all I have to say about frame data. Feel free to add to the discussion in the comments. I probably missed a point or two. This was suggested by a commenter a really long time ago on my Dahlia-san theorem video as the Bahamut theorem. But partway through the script, I realized that the structure wasn't really a theorem-style video. So instead of rewriting the entire script, I decided to just make the video a discussion-style video instead. So thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. Alright, bye.